And welcome back to the Hot Lap. Let's talk about our winners and losers from the Belgian Grand Prix. The biggest loser, as you probably know, is going to be George Russell. Unfortunately, he's been disqualified. Absolutely horrendous for him. I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm just kind of sucked. I'm so gutted for him, which was an absolutely fantastic race. We've got all the news on another video we've already uploaded about his disqualification. Plus, we did a couple of live streams as well in relation to it. George, yeah, he's got to be the biggest loser. But let's be talking about all the other biggest winners and losers. And George, he's only the loser because he got DQ'd. He was, for me, the man of the race up until that point. The other man of the race, Lewis Hamilton, the man that inherited his win but could not get past him, despite several tries, and we'll be talking about that in a bit. But before we do that, let's have a quick look at the race itself, as in the the race standings, before we get entirely into our winners and losers. So George Russell DQ, Hamilton winning, Piastri second, Leclerc third. Shame though, he couldn't celebrate on the podium. Lewis couldn't celebrate his win. George did, so I guess that's a plus. We've got Verstappen in fourth. Disappointed, I think. Norris in fifth. Yeah, we'll get into that. Sixth, Sainz seventh. Perez. Eighth, Alonso. Ninth, Ocon. 10th, Ricciardo gets a point thanks to George Russell's DQ. Every cloud has a silver lining for some fans. 11th is Stroll. 12th is Albon. 13th Gasly, 14th Magnussen, 15th Bottas, 16th Tsunoda, 17th Sargent, 18th Hulkenberg, and did not finish Zhao. So let's get into our winners and losers, shall we? So here we are in our winners and losers for the Belgium Grand Prix. So let's talk firstly about our biggest loser, who should also, in some ways, be our biggest winner, is George of the Russell. Oh, George, wherefore art thou thy? George, you are no longer a three-time winner, but it's not your fault. Toto Wolff has come out and apologised. Mercedes are, I think, very humbled by it. He was 1.5 kilograms underneath the weight once they took out the fuel. He breached the rules, and as we know, you only need to be a tiny bit of a millimetre away. As at Lewis's DRS in Brazil 2021. So George Russell, I think, one of the men of the race, if not the man of the race. Sadly, that win taken away from him, by no means by himself. Did that 1.5 kilograms make a difference? I don't think it really did, if I'm honest. Maybe like half a tenth, a few tenths throughout the whole race. But the issue is, I think Lewis had a chance to win this race and he didn't. But George Russell took it by the horns and, well, got disqualified, didn't he? But I think he can hang his head in high once he thinks about what was. He basically out-Lewis by being the Mercedes tyre whisperer. So now we've got George Russell out of the way. Who's next? Who's next on the, well, I don't say losers, but let's kind of go in reverse order. And it is a Sauber. It is, I'm struggling to find him on the list though. Where are you? Where is he gone? We've got Ricciardo, Bottas, Zhao, Guan Yu. Here he is. Yeah. There's not much really to say about him. He just didn't do very well. His car went, he didn't qualify very well. Outshone by Bottas again. Very much next. Hulkenberg. I mean, both the Hasses were kind of disappointed, really. Finishing 22 seconds behind your teammate. He's going to be happy. He's just going to be happy he's going to Audi, isn't he? For this race. But I do think that the Haas will come back. I'd be surprised if they don't score points again. I might be surprised if this guy scores points again. Not because he's going, but Logan Sargent, he had an upturn in form, didn't he? Especially out in Hungary. He looked okay at Silverstone, and now, finishing 17th, 86 seconds behind. Over, about 23 seconds behind your teammates, so it's not the worst. A pit stop behind, but yeah. I think, even James Vowles came out and strongly suggested that it's going to be Carlos Sainz joining the Williams team. So next up is the man that did start last, but I don't think he did okay. Yuki Tsunoda. I don't think you could have expected any more of him at the Belgian Grand Prix. So moving on, he was compromised from the start, wasn't he? Next up, we have got Valtteri Bottas, the man that Sauber might actually keep. There's now talk of Sauber Audi keeping him because it looks like Sainz might not want to go there. But will Sainz go to Williams? Who knows? Who knows where Sainz is going to go? But Bottas, average, I guess, kind of where you expect him to be. And Magnussen ended up beating his teammate, so he's going to be happy about that. That's good for his stock. Where is he going to race next year? Nobody knows, especially with Ocon now taking his place. And speaking of Alpine, but not Ocon, his teammate, Gasly. I forgot. Yeah, it's late. His teammate, Pierre Gasly, finishing 13th. Not too bad. Just outside the points, if I'm honest. But humbled very much by Esteban Ocon. And we'll get into Ocon in a tiny bit. Because let's talk about Alexander Albon. Just missing the point, sadly. In 12th, you've got to wonder, just behind, well, I say just behind Stroll. He was like 6/10 of a second behind Stroll. Really, should have Williams really be giving Aston Martin that much of a headache? I don't know. But then again, Aston Martin haven't been too great of late. And I can't really criticise Stroll too much. Because of the last few races, he's been almost as good, if not better sometimes, than Fernando Alonso. Today was not that day though, but finishing about 13 seconds behind him, with Alonso finishing 8th. So points for the team for Alonso, but not Lance Stroll. So next up, we've got our first points finisher, thanks to a George Russell disqualification, Danny Ricciardo. And I think he had a really solid race. Has he done enough to maybe get that Red Bull seat from Sergio Perez, or save his own seat from Sergio Perez? There are rumours that, I might as well tell you now, there are rumours, as we mentioned on our live stream, that Danny Ricciardo may be having a a one-off drive-off shooter, Fast and Furious, who can hit that, who can hit that gear faster against Liam Lawson. That is either to see who is going to replace Perez potentially, or it's who's going to be in the V-Carb after the summer break. I think it's a bit unfair really on Danny Ricciardo. To be honest, I think Yuki Tsunoda deserves that Red Bull seat, if anyone does. But it's just going to be interesting. So I guess stay tuned. Now, there is a big talk about Monday. So by the time you're hearing this, they may already have the talk, but I don't know if they're going to be releasing it on Monday. A big talk at Red Bull about Sergio Perez's future. And we'll talk about Sergio Perez in a bit. But Esteban Ocon, a really good race, a really solid race for Esteban Ocon. I'm not saying he's putting Gasly in the dust, but I'm not saying he's showing up Gasly. But more, if these results continue for another 2 or 3 races, it's going to raise a few eyebrows, isn't it? So Fernando Alonso, the elder statesman, he's finally got a decent result after us suggesting that after his signing, what on earth has happened to Fernando? Well, he finished 8th, so well done to Fernando Alonso. But we've got to talk about this next guy here. I imagine at some point we will be doing a whole video about him again. But Sergio Perez, the man who started second, a really good qualifying. You start second, qualified third, started second. I thought maybe he had a different setup to the Max Verstappen. We'll get into Max Verstappen's setup theory in a bit. And then you finish 8th on the road, 7th in total. Way, behind Sainz. That's because he pitted to get the fastest lap. But still, behind, out of that lead pack of 8 cars, he was 8th. He was at the back of that lead pack, despite starting second and passed by his own teammate. He ended up finishing, his team, well, I can't really say that because he pitted, but it would have been a good 10 plus seconds without the pit stop behind his teammate. Good enough? I don't think so. I certainly don't think he's done enough to save his career, but we'll get into that maybe another day. We'll see. So Carlos Sainz, again, he started on the hards, did the opposite strategy of George Russell. Maybe he regrets that now, because I think maybe they could have made it work. Or was that Mercedes car just a lot kinder on its tyres? But I think Sainz will be disappointed in that weekend. Not disappointed with this guy here. Lando Norris. He doesn't have the excuse of his team messing up, I don't think, because he was the one that messed up, and he admitted it as such. Going into the first corner, a couple of wheels on the gravel, and then it was, in hindsight now, race over. Another classic Lando. He really needs to learn. I think this summer break couldn't come soon enough, because this man could be a multiple race winner. But because of him, more than the team, I feel, he's not a multiple race winner. And I think he only needs to look in the mirror. I like Lando. He's got bags of talent. When he's on form, he's up there in terms of one of the most unbeatable drivers he was just brilliant in Miami, in Hungary. Oscar Piastri couldn't get near him. I know about the team orders. He hunted down Max Verstappen at Imola. He should have won in Spain. I just hope we don't look back and it's kind of like a what if scenario. McLaren aren't going for the championship at the moment, it would seem. And what I don't want to do is what BMW did in 2008 with Robert Kubica, where they decided to give up on that on Kubica winning the Drivers' Championship for a good championship the next year in 2009, and in the end it was rubbish. So I just hope McLaren, live in the moment. You got a good car. Try. Is he going to win the championship? Probably not, but it's worth going for it. But yeah, Lando Norris is Lando Norris's own worst enemy. So next up then, we have the three, possibly soon to be, four-time world champion, Max Verstappen. Finishing fourth, I think he'll be disappointed. Really, fifth on the road. Now, everyone thought, he's going to win the race. He's going to win the race. We had a theory here after in our qualifying chat, in our qualifying video, that he, not to take away from Max, he did an awesome lap. He did a fantastic lap. However, it does come with a caveat, and that caveat being that it was raining, and I think he put more downforce on than the other cars, for example, McLaren and Mercedes, and that gave him a fast car for those mixed conditions. Now I get it. Red Bull were like, well, we need a fast car. We need to qualify well because we don't want to start 15th, 16th. We really, we want to start 11th, which is the best place and thing. And Max Verstappen absolutely did the job. But I did feel it showed the next day, and it showed that maybe they did put too much downforce on, which does protect the tyres. But yeah, that was my theory, and I think it showed, So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think in hindsight, maybe they didn't have the fastest car overall. But I think he'll be disappointed by not getting on the podium. But there we go. But Charles Leclerc did get on the podium. He got a good start. I don't think there's nothing he could have done about Lewis Hamilton taking the early lead. But to be fair to him, he was, for quite a while, within a couple of seconds of Lewis. He kind of lost it in the end. But he did keep Lewis Hamilton fairly honest for at least half the race. Now, a man that was keeping Lewis Hamilton honest towards the end of the race and potentially a contender to win was Oscar Piastri. People were talking about this man winning his second Grand Prix before Lando Norris does. Alas, he didn't. He was within sight of Hamilton at the end, but he just didn't have enough laps. But he most certainly had the pace. And the race winner, Lewis Hamilton, well done. Man of the race, possibly, but I still think George Russell was, but he's DQ'd. I'd argue that Piastri's more man of the race. Why? Well, Lewis Hamilton, he caught up to George Russell really, really quickly. And I think also it was Lewis Hamilton. He looked up a couple of times at La Source. The crucial times, the last couple of laps, where he kind of got himself out of position, coming out of La Source, where George Russell did a much better job at nailing down the power because of Hamilton's mistakes. As you know, Eau Rouge is flat out, and it's flat out all the way down the Camel straight, that long DRS straight, until the breaking point in Le Coultre. So when Lewis did not get a good launch out of La Source for either locking up his tyres or just, messing up the line, it just looked really scruffy those last few laps. He then lost all that momentum to George Russell, who would then be able to get a couple of tenths ahead. And even by the time Lewis had DRS, it was kind of over, really. He needed to get a good launch, be catching a tiny bit with the slipstream, catching because he got a better launch, and then hit the DRS. And by the time he got into the DRS, he really needs to be about 3 or 4 tenths behind George. Maybe half a second, but no more than half a second to have a chance of passing. But sadly, it didn't. He did have half a stab. But yeah, I still can't help but feel Lewis, he should have got through. In my opinion. So that is essentially the lead. But let's look at the 2024 drivers' standings and how does that change things? Well, we've got Max Verstappen leading on 277. We've got Lando Norris on 199. Charles Leclerc in third. Oscar Piastri fourth. Carlos Sainz in fifth. So Oscar Piastri does move up past Carlos Sainz. Hamilton in sixth. Perez now, nicely ahead of Sergio Perez, with George Russell, who would have potentially been ahead of Perez, down in eighth, and then Fernando, Alonso in ninth, Lance Stroll in 10th, Hülkenberg 11th. Hülkenberg's doing really well, I think. Tsunoda, Ricciardo, as you can see there, Behrman, Gasly, Magnussen, Ocon, Albon, Zhao, Sargent, and Bottas. Excuse me, still yet to score points. Kind of a bit embarrassing, really. But here we go. McLaren within 2 wins now of Red Bull. What is it, like 42, 43 points? My math is not too great, but it's looking interesting. And interestingly, despite being 4th in the Constructors, it's Mercedes that has the second most wins with 3. McLaren and Ferrari having 2 apiece and Red Bull having 7, thanks to Max Verstappen. But there we go. Sauber yet to score points, but those big 4, I think any of the big 4 could potentially win the Constructors. Mercedes is a long way down, but if they keep on getting 1-2s, that gap's going to reduce really quickly. So watch out, Red Bull. So we made it to the end. If you enjoyed what you see, please give us a like, give us a subscribe. That will be fantastic. You won't miss a video. We obviously do F1, we talk about rally, we talk about touring car, a bit of gaming. If you like and comment as well, if you do one of them, you are a world champion in our eyes. If you do both, you're a multiple world champion. Thank you very much, and we will speak to you soon. This is where I click this.